set to take on the Dallas Cowboys on Sunday Night Football. We got an extended show for you today, rocking from 1 to 4, taking your calls, getting you set, looking at the entire picture in the season that's been the San Francisco 49ers at 3-4 versus the Cowboys, who are 3-3. A lot to dig into, Lo. But first and foremost, I'm glad we got a little bit of extra time to flush this whole thing out, try to figure out what's going on with this football team.
No question, man. I think we need to do that for both these teams to see where we're at, the kind of the state of the union, see where the Dallas Cowboys is, and you're watching two of America's teams, the San Francisco 49ers and the Dallas Cowboys. These are two teams that's been rivals. It's been epic. These are the teams of the 90s. And now you see these two teams that everyone had playoffs and Super Bowl expectations for both of these clubs. But right now, it seems like these two teams are just trying to fix and find out who they are, what's their identity, and how they get in a spot where they're both looking up instead of saying, hey, look, we're even with the field.
Yeah, a lot of parallels between these two teams. Not just the record, not just, I think, kind of the lowering of expectations, and not even just the non-use of the word contenders throughout the season.
Right.
The Niners gave big money to their wide receiver, Brandon Ayuk. Unfortunately, he tore his ACL last week against the Kansas City Chiefs. The Cowboys gave big money to C.D. Lamb. The Niners are getting set potentially to pay their quarterback. The Cowboys just paid their quarterback in Dak Prescott. So kind of two teams, two franchises in similar places, but it's funny, Lo, because on Sunday Night Football last year, Week 5, these were two teams that were coming off of, a big division round bout, right, here at Levi's Stadium, the chance to go to Philly, in which the Niners eventually lost. But between losing to the Niners in 2021 and the 2022 playoffs, the Cowboys, last 3 seasons, 12 wins, flaming out of the postseason. But now both them and the Niners have sort of cratered back down to earth, because last year it was a heavyweight bout. The Niners, they went in, they kicked their ass. They beat them by 35 or near 35 points. This year, it is a heavyweight fight, but not between two supreme powers. It's almost like two teams that are figuring out if they still have any power left.
Right. It's a heavyweight fight, but it's a heavyweight fight, and it's not two championship fights.
Exactly.
That's what you say. These two are fighting to get into contentions to see if they can fight against the top 3 or the top 4. Right now, they're not in contention. So you have a heavyweight fight that's going to take place today with the Niners and the Cowboys to see which team is going to crawl back into attentions to say potentially maybe you're fighting for a title or fighting for a championship. Because right now, neither one of these teams are playing championship football.
No, and both of these teams are right now sitting in third place. The Cowboys are looking up at the Eagles, who are about to beat the Bengals in mere moments.
Oh, they motorboated them.
Oh, yeah, they did.
That one got ugly. And you saw a Philadelphia team play consistent ball, play the Cincinnati team. They were pretty much tied around half. And then Philadelphia, second half, ended up winning that game 34-17 and really just showed some dominance. So when you think about what's going on and what's taking place in the NFC, and especially when you're talking about a Niner team that, that's been there for the last 4 or 5 years, has been the cream of the crop in that topper echelon. The Dallas Cowboys saying, hey, look, we just got to get past the Niners. Both these teams have been right there at the top. And it's just interesting just to watch the way these two teams are playing. For instance, you take Week 1. You looked at the Niners playing a Jets team, Aaron Rodgers-led team that everyone said, hey, this Jets team is going to be amazing. Aaron Rodgers, the defense they have, the things that they have offensively, went out, got some weapons, offensive weapons, and continue to do it. And you said they're going to play a Jets team that's got a great front four, some big-time players, some name, the defense, one of the better defenses. And you said, man, the Niners are going to have problems. The Niners went out there and ran the ball and looked really consistent on offense when they played against. And you were like, wow, look at this Niners' ability to move the ball against this Jets defense that you thought would be lights out. And then when you look at the other side of the ball, you looked at the Jets offense. You said, okay, this is Aaron Rodgers. This is arguably one of the greatest quarterbacks. He'll go down top 10 quarterbacks in the history of the game. And you watch the way that the Niners dominated the point of attack. Up front, they created a new line of scrimmage. You watch the way that the defensive front played and how they just stifled the Jets' running game, and you said, oh, my goodness, this Niner defense looks unbelievable, but it was more fool's goal than real to me. Because now when you watch the Jets and you see the Niners, you're like, wow, did the Jets give us a false illusion of what this Niner offense, and especially this Niner defense, were to be? Your thoughts?
No, I think both teams kind of fooled us in Week 1. the Jets, well, before the season, and I wasn't necessarily as high on them as a lot of people who were saying they had a potential to represent the AFC in the Super Bowl. I never wanted to go that far because I needed to see what Aaron Rodgers still had left in the tank.
Right.
And even though they got him weapons this offseason, they went out and got him Mike Williams, even though they've continuously added weapons, obviously Devontae Adams is now in New York right now, I never felt like that was going to be what put them over the top. It's a team that was probably mediocre heading into the season, had some strength defensively, and then pinned it on the wrong guy and firing their head coach. So the Jets are in disarray. The Niners fool's gold to me, because one thing that I always feel like it gets overlooked about that first game is that we still thought Christian McCaffrey was going to be on the field that night. Right. He was scratched from the game just before, about an hour and a half before kickoff. And now, of course, we know that it's going to be at least until after the bye week, looking at Tampa Bay potentially as a return date for Christian McCaffrey. But everyone was wondering what the Niners are going to be without McCaffrey, and it looked like they weren't going to skip a beat. Obviously, since then, that's not the case. We know how important Christian McCaffrey is, and it does feel like his absence has been hurting this football team. So from the standpoint of performance, the Jets have been fool's gold since the beginning. I think the Niners, we're still trying to figure out, are they actually good? Are they fool's gold because of injuries, or are they fool's gold because they actually might not be as good as we assumed?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of both, but you have to, you are who you are. And right now, when you watch the Niners, the inconsistency of running the ball, the inconsistency we're both watching this game.
Cleveland, Baltimore's coming out of the wire, man.
Yes, coming down the wire. Cleveland's moving into field goal range, and Jameis almost turns into Jameis, throws an interception right here instead of saying, hey, look, let's just get in field goal range. It's Hamlin drops the ball. It hits him right in the hand. All pro, one of the better cornerbacks in the league, has a chance to ice it in the game, doesn't catch it. So, hey, Cleveland's still alive. But, yeah, I think when you look at the Niners, what happened is they haven't been good. They haven't been good on especially on the defensive side of the ball. Offense have shown you some spurts, but I just think when you looked at the Jets and you watched the way that they beat the Jets up front offensively, and you thought that this was a team that was going to do better, they didn't do it. And that's the part that's disappointing for me watching the Niners defense. They've been giving up the run. They've given up yards in the passing game. They have not shown you consistency. But by the way, how about them Cleveland Browns?
How about them Cleveland Browns? And, of course, this is where the football gods are so cruel. And so, we're going to figure out how cruel they are to the Niners later or to the Cowboys later. But quite literally, a second ago, Cleveland's Jameis Winston throws a would-be interception to Kyle Hamilton. He has the ball in his mitts. He drops it. He knows it's a big play. One play later, Jameis Winston throws probably a game-winning touchdown to Cedric Tillman, and the Browns are going to knock off the Baltimore Ravens. It does appear. But that's how quickly the game of football can change, and that's how quickly a season can change, because again, we're talking about week 1 where the Niners are flying high. They look like they're going to be world beaters yet again. Haven't skipped a beat without Christian McCaffrey. And then the Minnesota Vikings, the very next week, you and I were on the air talking about how difficult that place is to play. The Vikings, who turn out to be a quality football team, bring the Niners back to earth.
No question. And then you watch how football goes. It's Cleveland Browns. They were talking about a fire sale. You get rid of Amari. It's Amari. You think that, hey, this team is over. You're playing against a Baltimore Ravens team that everyone says right now is probably the best in the AFC, the way that King Henry's been running, the way that Lamar Jackson, the defending MVP, has been playing. And now you get rid of your quarterback. You go with Jameis, who's struggled, and Jameis, who's been a journeyman quarterback, go out at home, and they're beating the Baltimore Ravens in 59 seconds away, whether win, lose, or draw. The Cleveland Browns now are a team that you say, wow, that got a life by having one player change, implementing the quarterback, Jameis, and now look at the way these guys have fought to get in this game to win. And with the Niners, the correlation you make, you say the Niners still have been in these football games. The Niners still have been in football games, and it's not that they've gotten blown out. They haven't gotten ran or drugged. It's the little things, and that's what we talked about weeks ago, is the inconsistency. The fact that you're saying, okay, you play against the Jets the next week where you go to Minnesota, right? Was it the second week you go to Minnesota?
Yeah.
The second week you go to Minnesota, and you turn the ball over. You have a 4th down play, and you have an opportunity to go for it a touchdown. Bad throw because Jennings gets held or whatever happens there. And if not, you change the trajectory. You're talking about one play here or there has cost that Minnesota. You don't turn that ball over. You don't turn that over on downs. You go ahead and get the touchdown. You have a fumble. So if you look at the way that the game is played, the football gods, the Niners used to be on the side where they would get a good bounce. This year, they're not getting the good bounce. And also, in the first 2 games, they just haven't played well enough to win.
Well, and you're absolutely right about that 1-yard play, because remember, that's then when Sam Darnold throws a 99-yard bomb to Justin Jefferson.
The next play.
So that's a 14-point potential swing in that football game. Now, I think overall the Niners didn't show me, though they only lost by a score, that they were good enough to beat the Minnesota Vikings as currently constructed. Even though the Vikings lost on Thursday to a Rams team that, by the way, I mentioned the Cowboys in 3rd place, the Niners also in 3rd place officially because the Rams right now have the tiebreaker because you blew that game in Week 3. So the Niners are right now in 3rd place. If they lose this football game tonight, they will be in the cellar.
Right.
So that's the reality that's facing the 49ers as they get set to go into their bye week, which right now looks much needed. But as far as kind of deconstructing the season, figuring out how we got here, I'm totally with you. Those first 3 weeks have, in a way, sort of set the tone for what we've seen. We've seen the Niners be up, but more than often, we've seen the Niners be down, and it's because of the little things. It's because of special teams. It's because of details. It's because of situational ineptitude that we haven't seen in years past. And so whether it's being not able to stop the run, they've had a couple of turnovers, but they haven't really got the big play. And really, even some of those big plays, for example, in the Vikings game, a Fred Warner interception, a fumble recovery at the goal line, and a punch out by Fred Warner. Those big plays haven't led to victories the way that they did even a year ago.
No, they really haven't, and it's because of, like we talked about, the inconsistency, the being able to stop teams against the run, being able to get a 3 and out. You haven't seen that. You played against the Viking teams that you let Sam Darnold go 99 yards on one play. That's a 14-point swing. You saw that and you're like, man, what's going on? And then the following week, you look at the Rams. You played a Rams team that was down Cooper Kupp, down different players. Was going with 4 different offensive line.
Yeah.
You played against the Los Angeles Rams team that you were playing on the road, that the crowd was a Niner. The Niner faithful traveled well. So you played a team that was pretty much on life support, and you lost that football game. And when you lost that game, it just seemed like, okay, when is this team going to get things together? And you think, hey, can they get this thing back on the ship on the right path?
Yeah.
And it just haven't clicked. Something has not clicked. I'm just talking about the first 3 weeks of the Niners season. What is missing?
Well, what's missing for them, obviously some pieces.
Of course.
In the Rams game. But to your point, it was, okay, so Debo didn't play in that game. Ayuk was, it was the Juwan Jennings game, right? That was when he had his 3 touchdown performance because you didn't have Debo or Kittle. But to your point, Kupp and Nakua weren't on the field for the Rams. They were down 3 offensive linemen. That was a game that, as we look ahead to the future of what the Niners season can become, that's the kind of game that makes you think, wow, that's a missed opportunity. And I think there's been too many missed opportunities throughout this season. I didn't view the Vikings game as necessarily a missed opportunity because the Vikings have since proven that they're a better football team.
Right.
But that Rams game absolutely was the start of what we've seen, which is just a roller coaster ride of what 49ers team are we going to get? And I think that's why a lot of people, as we're walking outside the Hilton, seeing people line up, they're excited about Sunday Night Football, but they're more nervous. There seems to be a tension in the air here that wasn't here, obviously, a season ago, but wasn't even here maybe a month ago. And I think it did start. The origin of it was that Los Angeles Rams game.
It was, and you have to realize, they say, oh, well, you didn't have McCaffrey, I get it, and you didn't have Jennings. But if you look at the way that the Niners have been able to run the ball over 100 yards, the first 3 games, you had a leading rusher. Dorner leading the league in rushing. So it wasn't like a situation that it was that you didn't have the ball, moving the ball on the ground. It wasn't like a situation you're saying, okay, McCaffrey, yeah, he's a game changer. Yeah, he can do more. Mm-hmm. But it wasn't like, oh my God, no, McCaffrey, we're not able to run the ball. You still was having 100, 150 yards, doing all the stuff that you were doing. And yes, Debo was not there. But guess what? Ayuk was there. But not just that. Or Jennings went for 150, 160. What was it? 170, 160, something like that.
Damn near.
So my point is, if Debo plays, is he going to have 170? Is he going to do what Jennings did that game? So you can't. And I know you say, well, you missed the guy. I get it. But look what you had. Look what the other guys stepped up and played at a very, very high level. You're winning that game, and you played against the Rams with a MIG-tag offensive line, and that's the thing that you say, man, who is this team? Where is this team going to get? How are they going to correct these problems? Just talking about these first 3 games. And we'll get into Dallas because Dallas has a similar type of pattern going on.
Yeah.
That's why we want to go and, bring on the listeners and bring in, call in to say, hey, look, what have you seen? Because I haven't been able to put my finger on it, but I see the inconsistency. You see all the things that happen. But I guarantee you, the Dallas Cowboys fans are saying the same thing.
Well, exactly. And it was even a week or two ago that Jerry Jones was on his own radio station, 105.3 The Fan, our sister station in Dallas, threatening to bring in new hosts because he doesn't know what kind of answers he's going to give to these questions. Right now, these two teams are looking for answers. And right now, all we have are questions about them because we don't know who they are. If you want to call in, I do want to hear from our listeners at 888-957-9570. How have the San Francisco 49ers gotten to this point? How are you feeling about the first 7 games? Are you nervous about tonight? Do you feel like the first 7 games are who the 49ers are this season, or have they yet to show us their right side? 888-957-9570. Lorenzo Neal and myself, Evan Giddings, are trying to deconstruct this thing and figure out how we got here. And I think the first 3 weeks, specifically week 3 against the Rams, gave us a glimpse into it, because the other part about it, and the only thing I really feel confident in saying about the Niners this season, is they have not yet played a game in which all 3 phases have been right. Because the Rams game, I thought Brock Purdy played very well in that game. I thought the defense at times was fine, but down the stretch in the second half, they wore down. But where they got hurt was on a special teams play, a fake punt, on a late punt return that put the Rams in position to win that football game. Against the Minnesota Vikings, there was a punt block. Against the Seattle Seahawks, even in the lone game that it looked like they played their best football, they still allowed a kickoff return for a touchdown. So they have not played a full all 3-phase football game through 7 games this season, and I think that's another reason why there's such a Jekyll and Hyde act at this point. You don't know who the Niners are going to be.
No question. I'm going to tell you right now, to me, if you said who's the MVP of the Niners team right now, it's Brock Purdy. If you look at what he's been able to do, go look at how many times he's scrambled to keep plays alive. Go look at what he's been able to do with his legs of getting out of trouble, getting out of harm's way. This guy he has absolutely saved this Niner team a bunch of times with his consistency, with his legs and scrambling and getting out of trouble. To have San Francisco 49ers extend a drive, extend a play, to move the chains. What you saw, the way this guy has done this week in and week out with his ability to make people miss and his ability to extend plays on third down, I think he's probably leading the league in one of those stats.
Well, he's been running around with like a chicken with his head cut off at times, and a lot of it is because either guys aren't open or he's not on the same page. Sometimes he is looking in the wrong place and not necessarily there, but again, that just points to the inconsistency. The offensive line certainly hasn't been necessarily the stoutest this year. And also even the running game. I would say that the most consistent piece of the offense has probably been Jordan Mason,
yes.
who's been the most unexpected person to arise, outside of the quarterback, obviously.
Right.
But Jordan Mason has not been able to take as much pressure as I think we, going back to the Jets game, assume that the running game was going to be able to do for Brock Purdy. And without that added dimension offensively, I do think we're seeing Brock Purdy being asked to do more than ever.
Oh, no question. Jordan Mason, everyone thought the running game was going to be dismal. Jordan, they said, okay, look, it's going to be okay, but you're going to miss, McCaffrey. And you have missed McCaffrey. You miss him. You miss his big playability, the screen game, the passing game, because he's a nightmare for receivers and deep safeties and linebackers to cover. I get that. But far as running the ball and being able to be physical and do the things that they need to do in order to keep this thing going, Jordan Mason has gotten an A+ with his consistency and how he's ran the ball. So there's just been, that's the biggest thing. It's been just those hurdles, the inconsistency, whether it's offense, whether it's defense, whether it's special teams. That's why this game tonight is so important, just to establish who you are, because, and I don't even think you can establish that tonight. I don't think one game is going to say, okay, the Niners' woes are over. You can't say that, because the inconsistency you have shown week in and week out, like you said, even when you beat a Seattle Seahawks team, one of your better games, you still gave up a 100-yard kickoff return.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a huge game just for both these teams to say which one is going to say, look, we want to contend to be able to work to fight for a championship fight. Because like you started the show, this is a heavyweight fight without any title implications. It's a heavyweight fight, but it's not a title fight. It's a heavyweight fight to say, are we going to get back in the conversation of being elite? Are either one of these teams going to get back in the conversation saying they have a chance to get in the playoffs? Because if you look at right now, these are just middle of the road teams. You can't say that the Dallas Cowboys are a dominant NFC team, and you can't say the 49ers is a dominant NFC team. You can't say it right now the way these two teams are playing. Well,
and if we're going to take the prize fighting analogy a step further, it's like we don't know if these fighters are out of their prime yet. They've been in title fights before.
Yes.
Now they haven't got the crown, neither of them, but they've been in those title fights before. But this is a game in which you're going to have questions about which fighter is still in their prime. And the Niners have a lot of questions to answer. That's why I'm 100% with you. This is not, in my opinion, a game that can get you right.
No.
But it can start you on the right track to figure out who you are, because we know that this Niners team, if you don't know by now, this ain't the same team as a year ago.
No.
Even without the injuries. And yes, it sucks that they haven't had McCaffrey. I hate to see Ayuk go down with an ACL. But even before then, there were signs that this is not the same team that cakewalked its way through the NFC and got to the Super Bowl last season. This was going to be a very different year no matter how many injuries they did or didn't have, in my opinion. And so they have a new identity. And they've also shown us the way that they've played offensively. Purdy has to do a lot more by himself. They're trying to move the ball down the field more. They're throwing the ball a lot deeper than they have in years past. Obviously, defensively, they've been a bit more bend but don't break, but they haven't been as good, even I think, as last season to begin last year. And then in special teams, look, Jake Moody got hurt, but they had kickers coming in and out. Special teams coverage has been inconsistent as hell. So this has not been the same team. I think this could be why I think it's an important game for the 49ers is it can give us a glimpse into who they can be for the rest of the season and just forget about the past. Last season, the last 4 seasons, quite frankly, in which they've made 3 NFC championship games and 1 Super Bowl, that doesn't matter anymore.
I without a doubt, and I'll tell you this, if they struggle the way they've been struggling on special teams, I think they'll make a move. And I know Shanahan's not a guy that makes moves in the middle of the season, but when you watch that onside kick, and yeah, you have a new punter, and you've got different things going on, but there's no excuse for a
talking
kickoff
about coaching.
Yeah, I think possibly there could be some coaching changes. I think possibly there can be, player changes because a lot of these players a lot of these young players and a lot of guys that are veteran players, they're on the team for special teams. You've made the team because they want some guys on special teams.
That's how Jordan Mason originally got his roster
Exactly.
spot.
And you don't have Jordan Mason because you want to rest this guy because he's running the ball. So you have a lot of guys now that went from special teams to starters. Jennings used to be a hell of a special teams player, playing forcer and all that stuff, but now you have a guy that's done that. Now they're trying to use him more offensively. So you've lost a lot of guys, like you just alluded to. Your team is different. So you don't have the same special team players that you have, and it's showing. It's showing big time, and it's showing up week in and week out on special teams. So I think the Niners have to do evaluation. You have to look and say, okay, do we got the right players to play special teams? Do we got the right coaching to play special teams? And like you alluded to, the defense last year was playing way better than this. My point when I said that there is a problem, and I knew that there is a serious problem with this team, and that's why I'm saying this is not a title fight, and that's why I'm saying this is just to say, can I get back in the rankings? Yeah, these guys used to be in the heyday, the top of the crop. Yes, I say that, and why I say with more authority now than ever. One game that sticks out in my mind, and I was like, this team's going to struggle. And it makes me think that they're going to struggle all year long, and they'll win games. They're going to be inconsistent. I think this is an 8 or 9 win team. From what I've seen thus far, it's an 8 or 9. And here's the deal. No one likes the Niners, but I love Juszczyk and the guys on his team. I want them, fullback, one of the only teams that carry a fullback. So I'm pulling for this team. So this is not a hate. This is not coming from a place of hate or just trying to be, Debbie Downer. It's coming from a place of what I've seen. And the biggest thing what I've seen, get back to it where I was going, is when Arizona Cardinals came to town. You're up by 2 points with like 3-4 minutes left. Arizona Cardinals took the ball down. You're on their own 80. They drove the ball 80 yards to win the game, and you had no answer. 80 yards against a team that's supposed to be trying to vie for a Super Bowl, against a team that's supposed to be one of the better defenses. And they lined up, and Connor just ran the ball down your throat, down your back. They didn't hardly throw the ball, and they were in a losing position. They were losing, and they ran the ball more than they throwed it to beat you. That's a problem. And you're starting to see teams in the games when they're losing, they just line up, and they're beating the Niners up. That is a problem to me, and that's a recipe for a headache, and that's a recipe to saying you're going to lose more than you win if you can't stop the run.
Well, and it goes to show that they're losing games in which they've outplayed opponents, and they haven't been able to win enough games so far in which they haven't outplayed. Like, they haven't been able to steal games, and conversely, they've had games stolen from them. So I'm with you that Arizona Cardinals game, in addition to the Rams game, are ones that you have to have. And it also makes me think about the Minnesota Vikings game in a sense, Lo, because even though I thought they got outplayed by the Vikings, they still technically had a chance in that football game. If they were able to get a stop on that final drive in which Sam Darnold converted 3 third downs, including a 3rd and 11, they give themselves a chance to win that game. Now, did they deserve to win? No. However, again, they have not stolen any games this season, but they have had games stolen from them. And that's the reason why they're 3-4, and that's the reason why I still think that this can be a 10-win team. 9, 10, cutting hairs, but to me, they can still be a playoff team, but they have to find a way to win games that they're supposed to. And the issue is, you already went through the softest part of your schedule. You already had the cupcakes or games in which you played teams that were injured. Next time you play the Rams, I hate to break it to you, Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua are going to be on that football field. The next time you play the Arizona Cardinals, they already know that they can beat you. Marvin Harrison didn't have a big game in that game. He's probably going to play a lot better. And you already know that James Conner is someone that runs without fear when he sees that defensive line. So the Niners right now are vulnerable, and I think they know it. And that's another reason why this football game is so big tonight. But when we come back, I do want to dig deeper into the Niners. I also want to look at how the Dallas Cowboys got here, because the Niners are in a place where they need this win, I think, just as much as the Cowboys do coming off a bye week. We'll dig into that as we move deeper here on the Kickoff Show, live from the Hilton Santa Clara. Evan Giddings, Lorenzo Neal. We're brought to you by Habas Law. Call 1-800-HABIS. They will fight to make it right. Can also visit them at habislaw.com. We're back after this on 95.7 The Game.
Did you know that most people wait 6 or 7 years before they buy a new TV? That's a lot of time in front of one TV.
see a pick of some kind on the right side, possibly.
Montana looking, throwing in the end zone. Caught it! Dwight Clark! It's a madhouse at Candlestick with 51 seconds left. Dwight Clark is 6'4". He stands about 10 feet tall in this crowd's estimation.
Now back to the Kickoff Show on 95.7 The Game.
Man, this gives me chills. I wasn't alive, but listening to Vin Scully call the catch. Of course, Niners Cowboys NFC Championship game, one of the most iconic moments in the history of football. That's what this rivalry used to be.
Yeah.
I'm not so sure we can say that anymore as we get set for Sunday Night Football here later on.
No question. But it used to be the big rival, but now it seems like the Niners have dominated this rival and have been absolutely blowing these guys out every single time. So, but now I think today's a new day, and both these teams are trying to figure it out. Both these teams are trying to see where they're going to go. I mean, you got to realize a week ago, 2 weeks ago, there's a team in the same division, and right down the street, down south, the Rams. They were going to do a fire sale. Talked about Cooper Kupp may be out. They might get rid of Stafford. All the things they were thinking about, okay, do we press rebuild or reboot? And all of a sudden, the Minnesota Vikings come into town, and the Rams find a way to win that. You heard the Steelers trying to get Cooper Kupp. All the different teams were trying, throwing their name in the hat to try to make something happen. But the Rams find a way to win. And look what it did for the Rams, to trajectory of the season, the way the motivation, the way that it pivoted their season from going to a seller to maybe even a buyer or just staying put, because they're right back in the conversation because of the NFC West is no clear leader right now.
Well, isn't it crazy, too, because a week ago there was rumors the Rams were seeking second-round compensation for Cooper Kupp, and he's a hell of a wide receiver. The Chiefs have already made a move. They went out to get DeAndre Hopkins. I'm sure they made calls for Cooper Kupp because he's the best wide receiver since Devontae Adams went from, of course, the Raiders to the Jets. That's on the market. But you're right. That win on Thursday night, and granted, it was a short week. Minnesota might have been a little bit vulnerable, but just one win can essentially all but put Sean McVay in a position where he says, we're not selling. And that's not the GM, that's not the owner, that's the head coach saying we're not selling. And Kyle Shanahan absolutely is someone that could walk to the podium tonight after a potential win and say, this is where our season starts, all right? We're going to get aggressive at and around the bye week, and we're going to look to the second half of this season to tell us what we're going to become. But that also means that what you saw happen on Thursday night, along with, say, a walk-off field goal in Miami where the Cardinals won earlier today, that pushes the Niners even more a little bit backwards, because the lone thing that I think has kept people hoping, and again, 888-957-9570 is the number. If you want to help Lorenzo, Neal, and I deconstruct how the Niners have gotten to the 3-4 point to this point this season before they take on the Cowboys on Sunday Night Football, to me, the Niners are still trying to figure out, number one, if they're good, but the reason for hope has been the division, because it hasn't been as good as, say, the NFC North. It hasn't been as competitive, or top-heavy, I should say, as the NFC East. They are right now very much in the thick of things, as they have the tiebreaker over the Seahawks. They're a game back at the Rams, or tied with the Rams, and then right now have a chance to move even ahead with the Cardinals. But if they lose this football game tonight, they're officially in the cellar, a place that I don't think anybody thought they'd be heading into the season at any point.
Right, and that's what gives you hesitation. It makes you think that, okay, last year, what did the Niners do? Oh, there's a guy named Chase Young. They went out and made a move. Are the Niners willing right now to stay put? Are they going to get aggressive? Or they feel that they're a player away? See, I'm looking at these things to say, you look at the Chiefs, made moves. You look at certain teams that are making moves. The Niners, are they making moves? And if so, what moves are they going to make? And if not, why? What is the why? Because for the last couple of years, they've made moves to make this, to strengthen their roster, to bolster their roster, to go get guys that are just with 1 year and they know after the year they're still gone. Has that not happened yet this year?
Well, and this is the difficult position they're in, because if they fall to 3-5, there might be some people that look at, say, a Charvarius Ward who's in a contract year, someone like Talanoa Hufanga who's in a contract year, someone like even Dre Greenlaw who's in a contract year. We haven't seen him yet, but those are going to be players that other teams, whether you like to think about the Niners as sellers or not, those are guys that if the Niners lose this game tonight, John Lynch is going to get calls about them in and around the bye week. The thing, I wouldn't necessarily I wouldn't label the Niners sellers.
Right.
But what I'll say is this. The Rams went from surefire sellers to standing pat. I think the Niners, before this week, looked like buyers to me, needed to be buyers to get their season right. If they lose this football game tonight, I can no longer consider them a buyer. In fact, I would consider them closer to being a seller than a buyer. And it's because of the way that their season's gone, and it's also because of the pieces I think that other teams will covet if the Niners want to try and remain competitive, but also recognize this just might not be the year.
Yeah, I would be surprised if Telefonga is on this squad next year. I think when you went out and you brought in the safety, you watched the way he played, Mufasa, you see the way he plays, how hard he hits. I don't know what this team is going to do. I know you're saying, hey, I think they're stand pack right now. They're not panicking. They're not pushing the fire sale, and they're not pushing the buy.
Well, you definitely can't buy.
No, I don't think they will buy.
This is a team that right now, as constructed, cannot afford to give up more draft picks.
No, and they're in a situation where if you do, why? What is it going to lead you right? You're in a tough place this year. I think they're going to hold serve and just like let the chips fall where they may. I don't see this team getting aggressive. I don't see a lot of players that are on this team coming back. I think that you're going to look this next week and say, hey, can you trade a guy here or there? Can you say, can I trade a guy to get some draft pieces back, building special teams? Or can I acquire anything? I think it's going to be very interesting after what happens with this game tonight because, like you just alluded to, the Niners right now, they are not buying. And we know that they're missing some key ingredients up front on the defensive line. There can be better. They could have a better offensive line right now with the receiver situation. You think of the holes that this team has right now. They usually would be buying at this time of the year.
Well, that's the other part about it too, Lo, is like usually when you're a buyer, it's because you have a hole or two that needs to be filled. Last year, defensive end, you could strengthen the pass rushing spot. The year before, I think the Christian McCaffrey trade to me is in a completely different category because that was a right place, right time buy where the Panthers didn't want to pay McCaffrey. McCaffrey wanted to get the hell out of Dodge, and he was having his first healthy season in a couple of years, and the Niners pounced at the right time and used that to transform their season.
Yeah, but they were in a situation they knew they were a player away from being a championship type of team.
They were a Christian McCaffrey away from doing that. Yeah.
So now,
I don't think that player's out there though.
No, but that just goes to show you. They need more. If you had Jefferson right now on this team, do you feel that this team now would be ready to go Super Bowl?
Justin Jefferson?
Yeah.
Whew. I think they'd need more than Justin Jefferson.
That's the point that I'm making. You're at a point in time right now with this ball club that one guy is not going to change really the trajectory to say that make you a championship. Last year, the year before, you had one guy, McCaffrey, that made you a viable team for a championship. Right now, this team is not good enough. They're not playing good enough ball to say they're one player away from being a championship caliber football team.
No, I'm 100% with you, and that's why I think that. Look, that's why this game is so important tonight. And not just because it could label the Niners buyers again or non-buyers, but because I need to know whether or not I'm going to buy the 49ers moving forward. How am I going to buy in, number one, as a media member, but as a fan, I'm looking to buy into this team. I'm still going to watch these games. I'm still going to be enthusiastic about them moving forward, but I need something to buy into, and they haven't done enough for me to feel confident in doing that. Obviously, they have championship-level expectations. They've gone deep into the postseason, but I'm talking about getting to the playoffs. I'm talking about right now looking up at three teams in your division. I believe that the 49ers, if they can play their best football, are better than, but everything about it is sort of based on last season. It's based on the pedigree that they've earned. However, nothing that they've done this year outside of go to Seattle and win has shown me that they're top dog in the NFC West because they've blown two very winnable games against two teams that were inferior to them and that are getting better. So the Niners are going to get healthy, hopefully, but I also don't think that McCaffrey coming back, let's say he does in Week 10, and I want to throw this to you. If McCaffrey comes back in Week 10 as he's hoped, as he's expected to against the Buccaneers, I don't think that's the player that all of a sudden catapults you back into contention, the way that the rest of the team has played.
Yeah, I look at McCaffrey, and I'm just going to be brutally honest. I know fans probably like, man, get low up there. I don't want to hear him talking about it anymore. If week 10, if he comes back and this team's not above 500, I don't think you'll see McCaffrey the whole year. For what? Why? Kyle Shanahan loves this guy. He loves him as a person. He loves him as a man. He as a man, he knows his dad. This is
John Lynch is best friends with Ed McCaffrey.
Exactly. Why play him? If you have a guy that you know is a generational talent and you know what he can do for you next year, and you know he's not feeling great this year, and there's nothing you're playing for this year, why in the hell would you play him? So everyone's, we're going to get this guy back. Why? For what? For who? Why would you do this to this guy and put the thread, wear the threads out on his tires that's already been a lot of thread has already been worn off? Why would you jeopardize that when you know right now it doesn't seem like you're going anywhere? These men have to earn the right to get McCaffrey. If I'm coach, I'm saying, you guys want McCaffrey back? Then let's go start winning some games. Mm-hmm. You want to get this guy back there and get him back playing championship football? Then we got to change this thing, and we got to start playing better football, because the first 6-7 games that we've seen, Game 1, you found a way to beat a Jets team that just lost to New England Patriots, and bringing in Devontae Adams. They blew that game, and the quarterback went out, so you lost to a backup quarterback. And then week 2, you get beat by Sam Darnold, but you still have a chance. Week 3, you lose to a Rams team that had 4 or 5 different offensive line, not having their best receiver, but you were injured too. So okay, but both teams were, but you still both got to play. Mm-hmm. Then you play against an Arizona Cardinal team, a team that you know that you should need to beat. By the way, Arizona just won. They got the tiebreaker. They beat you head-to-head. You'd let them run the ball down your throat. Boom, lost that game. Then you just played a Kansas City Chiefs team that's undefeated. We get it, but you lose that game. So why are you thinking about, and why is the fans thinking about a Christian McCaffrey, when this guy means that much to this team, and right now you're not playing well enough to have this guy beat himself up for what? So I'm telling you, if this team continues to struggle, I put him on IR for the whole year.
Well, and I think it's a little different with the injury that he has, because it's not as if, like, for example, sucks that Brandon Ayuk tore his ACL. He's going to have full reconstructive surgery. He'll be back probably midway through next year or at the beginning of the season, hopefully. But when he comes back, he will have taken a full year off of football. Christian McCaffrey has been ailing with tendonitis. That's not something that necessarily goes away. The reason why he's been shut down, it's not as if he's coming off of a torn muscle or a torn ligament. He still has the chance to tear that ligament. Right. And that's another reason why I would consider, if they don't win tonight, if maybe even he's active and healthy for Tampa Bay, if that game doesn't look like it's going well, the Niners have to show us, and I think you hit the nail on the head, the Niners have to show us still that they're a Christian McCaffrey away from getting this season back on track, because I haven't seen enough yet to believe that Christian McCaffrey is going to come in, wave the magic wand, and this team is going to run him along with who else is in that backfield to another deep postseason run. They've shown me right now that they're good enough to maybe get into the postseason, but to me, that's not.
Tell me why, because I want to stop you.
Yeah,
what makes you think they're good enough to get in the postseason? Really, I mean, I look at the Cowboys, because we're going to go through their schedule, who they played, and strength of schedule, and look, I don't think either one of those teams have shown me enough to say that I think they're playoff teams. That's in my opinion. Why do you think they're good enough? What have you seen that tells you this team is good enough to get to the playoffs?
Well, and this is why I don't think that they're capable of a deep postseason run from what I've seen, is because everything that I base my judgment on the Niners on is based on the opponents around them, specifically in their division.
I don't think they win. Here's the deal. Are they going to, question for you. Yeah. Do you think they win a division this year? The way that they're playing right now, do you see the Niners winning a division?
They're going to have to.
Exactly.
They're like that's the
only path.
That's the only path for them.
That's the only path.
But to me, I do think that they can be better than Seattle, Arizona, Los Angeles, because I don't think those three teams are that particularly good.
I don't either.
The Niners aren't very good either. Like, don't get me wrong. The Niners have not played well so far whatsoever. But if they can win this game tonight, and think about it, with everything wrong that's gone for the Niners, back to the offseason with guys holding out, guys holding in, injuries, their first-round pick getting shot in the chest, guys missing time. If you're telling me that they can go into the bye week 500, I know that everyone expected the Niners to come out and run roughshod over the league the way that they did at the beginning of last year. But to me, if you can be 500 at the bye week, with everything that's happened, you lose your number one wide receiver. You haven't had your number one offensive player of the year from last season. Brock Purdy hasn't been as efficient as he was last year, though I think he's grown and gotten better. To me, being 500 with everything that's happened, that's a win. And so from there, I believe they can get to a level where they can win the division, also because the division is not that good.
I agree with you that they have a chance, and it looks like they have a chance to try to win the division. That's going to be the only pathway to get there. I just look, if they go to Arizona today, if this team was in Arizona, they couldn't beat Arizona in Arizona. Arizona with Connell, you can't stop James. The way that he's running, James Conner, the way that he's running and what he's done. Right now, it'd be hard for me to say, oh, I'm going to give them a win. I'm going to give them a win against Arizona. Even though Arizona is not a good team, like you said. Seattle, okay, they match up good against Seattle. Anything can happen. I get it. The Rams is always anybody's game. So I don't see right now that they're playing that type of football that you can just say they're going to win the NFC West. I just haven't seen the consistency and the attention to details to merit that, because you had Arizona down by 2 and 5 minutes left, and you couldn't stop them. They drove the ball down your throat, running, passing, doing whatever they want to do to win that football game. You had a Ram team on the road, had them down with beat-up offensive line, using backup offensive line without their best wide receiver. And, yeah, the Niners didn't have a weapon. We get it. But you didn't win. Just looking at what we've seen, I just don't think that right now they're playing good enough that you say, yeah, they're going to win the NFC West. I wouldn't put my name on it. I couldn't.
Well, I think there's a difference between saying concretely they are going to win the NFC West and I believe they can win the NFC West.
Okay.
Now, that's because I also think there's another level that they can get to, and they have to. Like that's their only path to me to the postseason. I know it's only week 7, or pardon me, it's only been 7 weeks. This team ain't winning a wild card in the NFC right now. You look at what's going on in the NFC North. You think what's going on in the NFC South. Yeah. A team you got to play after the bye week, Tampa Bay, who also is going to be coming off a bye.
And Tampa Bay's been beat up, riddled with injuries, and they found a way. They fought like heck. Barely lose to Atlanta today. That Tampa Bay team's showing me heart. And this Niner team's been playing with heart and been playing with a lot of gusto. You see the effort's not there. So the effort's there.
Yeah.
So it's not like we're sitting here talking about, oh, the Niners just quit. No, the team they're playing tonight, I saw them quit. I've seen it, but this is a team that I haven't seen quit. But what I've seen thus far is saying it's hard for me to sit here and say, God, they got a great chance of winning the NFC West. I don't see them having a great chance because of what I've seen thus far in 7 weeks gives me no hope that this team is going to win the NFC West.
Well, what they've proven to me is that they don't deserve the benefit of the doubt anymore. In any matchup, quite honestly,
right.
And we're going to eventually get to what we think about, the Sunday night game and predictions and all the rest. But if you just go through the last, let's say, 3 weeks, so Kansas City, before that Seattle. I guess New England's in a different category.
New England, yeah.
But Arizona, that Arizona game, I remember being here with you, and I felt like the Niners could win that football game, and they had a double-digit lead. But just like the Rams game, it became apparent very quickly that this is not the same team of last year, and they are susceptible to falling behind, breaking down, and wearing down throughout football games. I don't know if that's because they've made so many deep postseason runs. I don't know if it's because the personnel is a little bit different. I think it's got to be deeper than schematic stuff at this point, because the Niners, for whatever reason, teams do not fear them anymore.
No.
And they do not have the same killer mentality that they did to put teams away. And it manifests itself statistically in the red zone category, or the fact that they've turned the ball over 11 times already through 7 weeks. Last year, they only turned the ball over 18 times all of last season. And those are little things that you could look and say, hey, well, they're not good in this category. They're not good in that category. But we've been to all these games. We've been watching this team. They're not the same. They're not as tough as they were even last season.
Right.
And there are There are holes in this team armor right now that everybody is looking at and just saying, if we give them a jab here, if we give them a jab there, they're going to wilt. All it takes is time. And where the Niners were the team that I felt like the last couple of seasons were the ones to lean and just say, you know what, we're going to stick to our game plan, stick to our process. Even if we fall behind, we're eventually going to break down this wall. Other teams are doing that to the Niners now, and for whatever reason, the Niners have not been able to stop it.
Yeah, and also I see that the offense now, you talked about it, taking more chances because the lack of belief in the defense. Last year, you can line up and say, okay, let's run the clock out. We're going to play big boy bully ball and just run teams out of the stadium. They can no longer do that. So now the offense has to throw the ball, have to take more chances, have to try to jump up because they don't believe their defense sustain to get off the field and to give them the ball back. So you see the offense, even the mind thought of Shanahan, they're being more aggressive at the end of games, not just sitting there saying we're going to run it, because right now they don't believe in the defense and they say, we got to help them out. We got to keep them off the field. They have to try to continue to do that. That's a problem. That's a problem when your offense has been more aggressive than it usually is because the lack of belief that they have in that defense.
Well, and it isn't as if other teams around the league haven't dealt with injuries. I think that the Chiefs game is the one that stands out the most because, yes, Ayuk going down absolutely sucked. Debo having pneumonia, not being able to play more than 3 plays, that sucked. You didn't have Juwan Jennings coming into that game. But the Chiefs are obviously down their number one wide receiver, Rashee Rice. Juju Smith-Schuster gets hurt early in that football game, and the Chiefs find a way to do enough offensively. It wasn't as if, I know they put the most points up they had this season, but to me, the firepower was not on the offensive side. Mahomes turned the ball over a couple times. The defense is where they make their hay, and the Niners have not had the luxury to rely on their defense the way they have in years past. And so you're right. They are throwing the ball deeper down the field, not because necessarily they want to, but because they have to. They have to try and hit these chunk plays, these big plays, these field-flipping plays in order to give themselves scoring opportunities, which, to their credit, they have. I mean, I think they're top 3 in terms of drives that end in a score, but they're bottom 3 in drives that you get to the red zone that end in a touchdown. And so, the Niners right now, I think, are looking for a phase of football to lean on, to trust in, because it seems to change every game. I actually thought the defense played pretty well against Kansas City, but the offense, they lost their battle against the Rams. I think the offense and the defense won, but special teams lost. The Vikings, the offense wasn't good enough when it needed. So they have not played a complete football game.
Yeah, and that's what they have to try to figure out, and that's what gives me reservations to say I want to crown them to saying that they have the best chance of winning the NFC West because of the things you just alluded to, the inconsistency on offense, the inconsistency on defense, and the inconsistency on special teams. You can't be inconsistent in all 3 phases of the game and think you're going to win football games and think you're going to go to the playoffs and think you're going to go deep and think that things are going to happen. You have to be good at least in 2. If you have a killer offense and you score 30 or more points a game, you're going to win some games, no matter what. If you have a great defense that plays lights out and your offense just scores 20, you're winning games. Me and you, we talk about the Chargers. You were born down that area, down south. And think about it. If the Chargers just score with the quarterback they have, if they just score 21 points a game this year, you know what their record would be? 6-0. It's a game of inches. That's the thing. You have a Charger team that if they just scored 21 points, they would be undefeated. And they played against Kansas City. They played against, the Steelers. So this is a Niner team that has to get some things fixed offensively, defensively, because it has potential. And it's going with the potential is because of what we've seen in the past. But reality is, if we look in the reality of things, they have not played a great game this whole year, including Seattle, because you gave up a 100-yard kickoff return against Seattle. You cannot say that this team has played great football yet this whole year.
No, and even for those people that were arguing that they closed out the Seahawks, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but Geno Smith threw that game to them. I mean, they were an offsides away from a DK Metcalf touchdown, putting them in a position to potentially steal that after going down 20 points. So, I don't want to be the bearer of bad news. I don't mean to make it sound like it's all rain clouds in San Francisco. I think what we're doing, Lo, is just trying to emphasize how much pressure is on this particular football game tonight on Sunday Night Football, because it's a game the Niners need, not necessarily to cure what ails them completely, but to get this season back on track to where I believe it can go, which is to the postseason. We have to take it one game at a time. We have to take it one matchup at a time. And as we roll on in the kickoff show, I want to continue that conversation, but also bleed it into, of course, the Dallas Cowboys, because I think the Niners and the Cowboys are in a very similar place in their seasons. This is the Kickoff Show live from the Hilton Santa Clara, brought to you by Habas Law. If you've been wronged, Habas Law will fight to make it right. Call 1-800-INJURED or visit habaslaw.com. Lorenzo Neal, Evan Giddings, live after this. We continue until 4 o'clock right here on the Kickoff Show on 95.7 The Game.
I'm Bob Burke, founder and chairman of Burke America Parts Group, a family of brands that includes RepairClinic.com.
touchdown, San Francisco. 2 minutes, 18 seconds left to play. 30-20 Dallas.
Yeah, there's a point where you get in a game that you realize that your season is over, and there's a point in a game that you realize you're going to the Super Bowl, and those are extreme comparisons.
Pass is picked off by Washington. And Dallas will take over.
Now back to the Kickoff Show on 95.7 The Game.
Man, R.I.P. the great John Madden.
Nice.
Just unbelievable. And, of course, has vocalized and narrated so many of the memories between the 49ers and the Cowboys from the 80s to the 90s. And now here in the 2020s, we're trying to see if the rivalry can be rekindled tonight on Sunday night about 3.5 hours away. Sunday Night Football, Levi's Stadium. Lorenzo Neal, Evan Giddings with you on the Kickoff Show right outside of Levi's at the Hilton, Santa Clara. If you're coming by, feel free to stop in. It's a great environment to have a good time. Of course, enjoy some sleep if you're here. Before, after the game, whenever, drop on by the Hilton, Santa Clara. The Kickoff Show is, of course, sponsored by Habas Law. You know, and we've been talking, Lo, a lot about the 49ers, you know, how we got to this point, where their season's going, and we'll certainly weave that into the conversation. But the Dallas Cowboys are in kind of a similar place. So the Niners are 3-4, the Cowboys are 3-3. They're coming off of a bye week, added rest, but right before they took perhaps the most lopsided loss of the season until today for the Detroit Lions, who've been hanging 50 with regularly, it seems, on opposing defenses. But they got beat 47-9 at Jerry World on Jerry Jones' birthday in Dallas, and so they have as much urgency as any football team, including the 49ers, to come out and try and get a win tonight.
Oh, no question. You look at these two teams, and that's what we talked about for the first hour, was just the 49ers and what the state of the union and what the state of the team is, and just where they're at mentally and physically and what the way they play. You look at this Dallas Cowboys team, you know, they played against the Cleveland Browns the first week, and they got to win. Cleveland's not a good football team. You see what's happened. They insert Jameis Winston. They find a way to beat a Baltimore Ravens team that seemed to be on top of the AFC the way they've been playing as of late. So you look at Dallas and you say, okay, the Cowboys beat Cleveland. They're going to be on this roll. Then they get smoked by a New Orleans Saints team that's not been playing well. Of course, Carr's out and got some injuries there. We get that. But you don't show up. You don't show up at all, and you're like, wow, where is this Cowboy team? Everyone thought they could beat the Saints, especially with a team that had so much expectation of being a playoff type of team, a team that was going to make a deep push into the playoffs, and a team that's going to threaten. And you lose to the Saints. Then you say, okay, God, let's see if this team can get back on track. You play a Ravens team, Derrick Henry and friggin' Lamar Jackson, just 80-yard touchdown from scrimmage. If he was even, he was leaving. Yeah. And you saw just the Dallas Cowboys defensively, a team that's been known that's saying, hey, one of the most physical defense, one of the most athletic, and get after your defense, a sack-happy team that you looked at their defense last year was one of the top better defenses in the league. And you saw Baltimore just destroy them. Then they try to get back on track with the Giants, find a way to win that game. And then Steelers, of course, beat up on you. And then Detroit, they quit. You're looking at a Dallas Cowboy teams to me that has shown some QUIT. You see if they're playing against a Niner team that I haven't seen quit. You've seen Dallas quit. But these are two teams that the league wants to be good. This is two teams that the media wants to be good. Dallas is a huge, Jerry's world, Dallas Cowboys is a huge, big-time draw for the NFL, and you've seen this team have just melted down, and no one's more happier than Stephen A. Smith.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, man, he's got to be licking his chops for First Take tomorrow morning if they lose tonight here at Levi's to the San Francisco 49ers. And partially it's because the Niners have not been very good this year. We discussed all the inconsistencies that they've had. Yeah, I think that the Cowboys are a team that to me are fascinating because they also got their set of injuries. Like Micah Parsons is not playing in this football game. They got some guys that are out. But they do have some stability offensively as far as Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb. They got some injuries at the offensive line. They're a pretty banged up football team, but they have added urgency, and I think the urgency is created by the game you talked about, their last time out against Detroit. The Lions look like the best team in the NFC, and if not for the Kansas City Chiefs, maybe the most dominant team in the NFL. Certainly the league's best offense, I think, in the NFL. But they gave up. And so when you have that kind of performance, whether it's going into a bye, whether it's going into just any old average week, there has to be some sort of sense of that can't happen again, and that level of effort is not good enough. Whether you're the Dallas Cowboys, whether you're the Jacksonville Jaguars, whether you're the Kansas City Chiefs, those kinds of performances you typically tend to see teams bounce back. And so I'm curious to see how they play tonight, because looking up and down their schedule, I think the Niners have had their number, right? Last week we talked about the Chiefs. The Chiefs are to the San Francisco 49ers what the San Francisco 49ers have been to the Dallas Cowboys. So they have not been able to get over that particular hurdle. But if you just look at their resume this year, the Dallas Cowboys got a better win on their resume. That's a road win against the Pittsburgh Steelers. That's a damn good defense that they racked up nearly 450 yards against. They have 3 losses on their schedule. The Saints right now probably doesn't look good, but like you alluded to, Derek Carr was playing in that football game. Right. People were crowning them already after 2 weeks. The Baltimore Ravens, though they lost today to the Cleveland Browns, I still think they're a pretty good football team.
They are.
And then the Detroit Lions are the best team in the NFC, in my opinion. So the teams that they have lost to are better than the teams that the Niners have had a couple of inconsistent games against. You look at the Rams, the Cardinals. I think that the Cowboys, it's funny enough, I think just because of the brand, the star, the postseason flameouts, people think of the Cowboys, especially in San Francisco, as just being kind of a joke. But so far this season, again, that's why this game is big for them too.
Yeah,
because they're trying to prove that they are actually a team to be taken seriously in the NFC.
No question. And not just that, you paid the guy. You got the highest paid quarterback in Dak Prescott in the National Football League. You have a guy that's supposed to be a game changer. A guy that can go out there and say, look, we paid you. We expect you to go win games. We expect you to throw for 300 or whatever it may be. Look at the Buffalo Bills. You have Josh Allen, a guy that doesn't have necessarily a great defense, doesn't have necessarily a great off, but he makes everyone better around him. He says, I'm going to go win this game because I have to go for 4 touchdowns. I'll do it. You look at certain guys, Aaron Rodgers, we can't say that anymore, not this year, but you look around the league and you see Mahomes inside of on interceptions. He says, okay, let me find a way to get it done and make it happen.
Hey, it's Willard and Dips for Safeway. Enjoy these amazing deals for members, and as always, earn 4 times reward points on hundreds of exclusive offers with your Safeway app. Check out what we're doing this week. Signature Select Pizza, 12 to 33.5 ounces, or DiGiorno, Rising Crust, or hand-tossed pizza, 16.9 to 27.3 ounce varieties, $4.99 each.
Or you can mix and match Lay's potato chips, Cheetos, Tostitos, and Smart Food popcorn, 4.75 to 13 ounce selected varieties. Buy 2, get 2 for free when you buy 4.
Chips and popcorn, and you got a beer?
Yeah, and you can wash it down with Sierra Nevada, Lagunitas, White Claw, or New Belgium 12-ounce 12 packs for $15.99 each, plus CRV selected varieties.
Sounds perfect. These and other great digital deals are available in the For You section on the Safeway app. The app is simple to use, makes it easy to save money. We all like that. Go to Safeway.com for more details, and we'll see you in the aisles.
Did you know that most people wait 6 or 7 years before they buy a new TV? That's a lot of time in front of one TV. So why not get one of the best sets for the next 7 years, like one of the top-rated Samsung, LG, or Sony models? Too expensive? What if you could get up to $1,000 trade-in for your old set? Who would do a stupid deal like this? Right now, at Video Only, you can get big bucks for your old set as a trade-in and a hot price on the new models. Don't be sorry. Check out Video Only.
Do you often worry you left the garage door open? With a LiftMaster garage door opener powered by MyQ, you'll never worry again. You can control, secure, and monitor your garage from your smartphone anytime, from anywhere through the MyQ app. As an authorized LiftMaster dealer, Ace's Garage Door Repair and Installation has smart openers designed for your needs, including belt drive motors for ultra-quiet operation, integrated camera for live video, streaming, and battery backup to let you in when the power is out. Trust Ace's Garage Door Repair and Installation for top-notch service and unbeatable reliability. Whether you need a quick fix, a complete replacement, or a brand new installation for your garage door or garage door opener, our skilled technicians are here to get the job done right. With competitive prices, a commitment to quality, and Diamond certification, Aces has you covered. Call today at 855-588-2237 or visit acegd.com. That's acegd.com. Aces Garage Door Repair and Installation, where your garage door is our priority.
Ready to take your business to the next level? In today's fast-paced marketing world, staying ahead isn't just an option, it's essential. That's where Scale Marketing comes in. We don't just help you compete, we make sure you win. Whether you're looking to grow, expand, or overcome stagnation, Scale Marketing is your performance marketing partner. We specialize in helping mid-sized B2C companies with teams of over 100 thrive. Scale Marketing is a full-service agency offering expertise in performance marketing across traditional and digital platforms, creative production, and data analytics. We treat your money like it's our own, ensuring every dollar is spent with purpose and every decision is driven by data. Our knowledgeable team stays ahead of the trends, crafting strategies that align with your business goals. Partnering with Scale Marketing means gaining a dedicated strategist and a team committed to your success. If you're ready to lead the market, visit scalemarketing.com today. That's scalemarketing.com.
Hey, diamond lovers. Shane Company knows fine jewelry. That means a lot when you're looking for a dream engagement ring, a beautiful keepsake, or the perfect gift. When it's this important, you want someone who knows exactly how to work with your budget. Not against it. Someone who knows you deserve a piece more beautiful than you've ever imagined. Through 4 generations as a family business, we've always sourced our diamonds and gemstones directly, cut out the middleman, and passed the savings on to you. Come see us in store and compare our wide selection of diamonds, rubies, and a rainbow of sapphires in different shapes and sizes. So many in stock and ready to take home today. Create your dream engagement ring in 3 easy steps, or pick a perfectly preset ring.